Ain't no struggle streamers over here. I don't even have a YouTube. What I need a YouTube page for? I'm the biggest name on YouTube. What I need a YouTube page? Banned from Facebook, biggest name on Facebook. Can't go live on TikTok, biggest name on TikTok. Ain't no struggle streamers over here. I'm too busy building. I ain't got time to be struggle streaming.
Shamar, don't discriminate.
Listen.
Somebody built an institution from the grass.
Right.
Name me somebody. You ain't got none of them. Name me a YouTuber doing what I'm doing. Any of them conscious dudes. Name one on my level. Name one builder. You crazy.
I
They
can't.
tie my sneaks, bruh.
I can't.
They
All
ain't
I can
building
name
shit.
is my
How many
father-in-law.
kids they say? How many they kept out of jail, bruh? They're not building shit.
Right.
Put me through the grass. What have they built, bruh? Who you know in the conscious movement built an institution? Answer that. Nobody. I'm the only one in my generation doing it.
Well, you're building it. You're building it. It's
Yeah,
not built
bruh.
yet, though. It's
It'll
not built.
be there. Don't you worry about it. You be the first one there. Trust me.
Beautiful.
Recently, Umar Johnson made a post on his Instagram referring to himself as the Black Christ of Black consciousness. But really, he's nothing more than a narcissistic, reckless, hell-bound cult leader. He has stated on many occasions that he practices African spirituality under a religion called Ifa. He believes his prayers are answered by his ancestors who perished during the transatlantic slave trade. He relies on them for protection and to warn him of pending danger. Those who are of the faith in Christ Jesus understand that he is a practicing witch, and he's a sorcerer who also practices necromancy, because those are not the spirits of our ancestors. Those are masquerading demons. But I'll break that down in another video. The FDMG Academy was announced about 15 years ago and was supposed to open 13 years ago. Throughout the course of this time, Umar Johnson has made a number of mistakes which were transparent to this social media epidemic. Number one, his goals for the school were too lofty and therefore the momentum never measured up to the money donated. Really, the school would need an annual budget of at least $30 million, keeping in mind he wanted FDMG to be a boarding school for boys and girls. He stated pretty much that young blacks would be able to graduate and run a society independent of white supremacy, but he wants to do it without the help of banks. 2. He's had too many public beefs with guys like Tariq Nasheed, Jamar from Brand Nubian, whom many people refer to as Lord Jamar, Sarah Sudan Seti, the conscious stripper, and Lennon Honor. Okay, number 3, Umar Johnson likely spent as much as $1 million of donations on himself personally the last 10 plus years. So he is unable to present to the people that he has $1 million in the account that he hasn't touched, that he was going to use for the school. Okay, so that this would inspire any momentous efforts from the masses to continue giving anywhere near the rate they were when the campaign first started. Nevertheless, I did a video 4.5 years ago on the whole dilemma, and I have several other videos I'll be doing on the whole Dr. Umar Johnson situation. So let's get to it. Now, recently, Dr. Umar Johnson, as I mentioned, he's purchased 4 buildings and 2 schools in Wilmington, Delaware, which of course is named after Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey. And it's been a struggle for him to raise funds for the schools. And as a consequence, social media, the YouTube world, has begun to clown him for it, and they've stretched out questions to be asked about where's the money going and so forth. But anyways, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to give my take at a pause every now and then.
In addition to that, we're in the process of building a Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy, Wilmington, Delaware. We purchased 4 buildings February of 2019, 1 week before Frederick Douglass's 201st birthday. And we're in the process of getting the smaller school, which is the Honorable Marcus Garvey building. We're trying to get that ready by the new year. Renovations have begun. The roof has been repaired. We're working on the plumbing, the electric, the HVAC now. God willing, keeping our fingers crossed, we'll have that building ready to go by the new year. We're a little short on the cash.
Now, to renovate, to account for salaries, training, background checks, sort out some type of curriculum, taxes, cash reserves, that's at least $30 million. There's no way he can have that by the new year.
So we're asking brothers and sisters to keep on donating. Please get on your Cash App, $ FDMG School. Get on your PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy, or mail in your donation to the FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. Former Minister of Education, Marcus Garvey's UNIA, founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association. Education and mental health is what I do, along with the greater goal of international liberation for all African people as a pan-Africanist.
Okay, well, let's get into a little bit. You're from Philly, yes?
Born and raised, still
Born
here.
and raised. So how does a young kid from Philly become a doctor, a clinical psychologist, a child psychologist and all that? That doesn't seem like the normal path for your average kid from Philly.
True.
What led you down that road?
2 institutions that played a very large role in my life are only about 5 blocks from each other. And one is the George G. Meade Elementary School, where I received my Black history instruction during the 4th and the 5th grade. And about 5 blocks away from that is the international headquarters, Division 121 of the Marcus Garvey movement, the UNIA ACL. So public speaking began for me at Meade Elementary, and it transcended a few blocks away once I joined the UNIA after I graduated from Millersville University when I came out of undergrad. But specifically speaking to becoming a psychologist, I've always wanted to be that. Since I was a 3rd grader, I wanted to help children.
Now, there are quite a few individuals who've questioned Dr. Umar's credentials, whether or not he has 6 degrees. Now, that I think is unfair, and I think that's a form of self-hatred within our people, because our people are always in competition with one another. So when they see one of their own because this is the society that's dominated by the so-called white man. So many people who are school psychologists are of Caucasian descent. So when they see a black man, especially a man of Dr. Umar's stature, who may come across as a guy who you just see in the hood, that's his appearance, wearing the beard and, the dashiki, that's not your normal school psychologist. So I believe that's where that notion stems from, that he doesn't have 6 degrees, and to his own fault as well, the way that he's carried himself in the last couple years, 4 or 5 years or so. He's got himself caught in a bunch of rants that doesn't come across as professional. I understand that, but I believe most black people are jealous of one another, and that's a curse in its own, which I'll speak on later.
Why?
Because I'm the oldest boy of my mother's children, and I didn't have a big brother.
So
I decided I wanted to be the big brother for all the children who would need one as they grew up.
No, that's interesting because I can kind of relate as being a big brother. You're the one that, you're the pioneer for a lot of knowledge, I guess. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you're the one that ends up teaching the ones under you. So that does end up becoming sometimes a just a natural fit for an older brother. So
Jamar can care less about these early round of questions that he's asking Dr. Umar. This is a method that is frequently used by a lot of interviewers on the mainstream media, and he's been in the game for a while, so he knows that he's getting Dr. Umar comfortable talking about himself, and later on, he's going to start to ask a lot of the tougher questions, and you can see Dr. Umar's body language begin to change.
oh, so you said the school had to do with Pan Africanism as well,
Well, the
yes?
school was Black History.
Okay.
The school was Black History. I always say I was a Pan-Africanist before I knew what Pan-Africanism was, because the red, black, and green flag just always naturally vibrated with me even before joining the UNIA. And I grew up right around the corner. I grew up, I would say, the most significant childhood home where I lived, where I was from fourth grade until my junior year of college. Walking is probably 1, 2, 3. It's literally about 6 blocks away from the UNIA, but I never knew it was there. I did not learn about the UNIA being where it was until I graduated from undergrad in 1997. So ironically, my mother bought all of my sneakers for school and for play right next door to the UNIA. So my whole life, we were going right next door to the Garvey movement, and I never knew it until I came out of college.
Now, for those who might know, what is Pan Africanism? Explain the concept
Pan-Africanism,
of Pan Africanism.
to sum it up in 4 principles, and Garveyism is simply the highest stage of Pan-Africanism.
Now, often you'll hear Dr. Umar refer to Garveyism, being a Garveyite, and how he calls on the spirit of Marcus Garvey to complete a lot of his great work, and to call on the ancestors, pour in libation, prayers to the dead. That's idolatry. It's necromancy. It's also a quick way to get a demon or demons, plural.
The first principle, all African people are one family. We believe in one race, one family, one people. So whether you in New York speaking English, whether you in South Africa speaking Zulu, whether you in Brazil speaking Portuguese, whether you in Haiti speaking French, wherever you are on this earth, if you descend from the original man and woman that the Creator put on African soil, then you are members of that original African family. And more importantly, we identify as being African family first. So that means that you're never a Christian who happens to be African. You're never a Muslim who happens to be African. You are African who happens to be a Muslim. You are African who happens to be Christian. Nothing supersedes your racial family identity. So
So
the
Pan Afri-
religion isn't first, the profession isn't first, your gang, your clique, your organization, your frat, nothing comes before the race. The race is the essential human family.
Again, everything that you accomplish in the flesh is as good as filthy rags, according to scripture. The flesh eventually becomes worm food. This is a temporary meat suit that we live in. So your race cannot come first. Christ must come first. The scripture says, for those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death. That means to focus on putting your race first. That's just going to lead to death because it's not of the spirit. Everything that we see naturally came second. The flesh came second. The spirit came first, which was God creating everything that is tangible, which was made of everything that is intangible. God is a spirit. So the flesh cannot come first. The desires of the flesh leads to death. That's why there's so much division within our race, within every race. That's why every race has a curse on it. And that's why even the white race, the so-called white man, those who are of the Republican Party looking to Trump to save them, to make America great again. And this is a mortal man. This is a fleshly man. He can't provide anything for you that has longevity, that will last. Tax cuts don't last. Those are all tangible things that have an expiration date on it. And this flesh also has an expiration date on it. So everything you accomplish in the flesh goes down as legacy, and other men begin to deify the dead man. That like not only the so-called black man, but all race of people, they deify dead men. They make statues of dead men, and that is idolatry.
Of white supremacy.
The 11 laws of white supremacy. The 3 are the most important. Rule number 1, and I guess it's the rule that most people find most controversial, and that is that all white people are racist. And when you say that all white people are racist, a lot of black people look at you crazy. A lot of white people look at you crazy. But I like to explain exactly what I mean by that. Racism is a group system that is created and implemented by an entire group. Everybody participates.
Facts.
And that system is designed to disadvantage all members of another group. All of them are affected by racism. In other words, whether you're Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Jay-Z, Bob Johnson, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Minister Farrakhan, racism affects all black people, irregardless of education, status, class, or wealth. Well, if it impacts all black people, regardless of who they are, then it must also benefit all white people, regardless of who they are. And so white people will argue that I'm not a racist. My ancestors didn't own slaves. I've never done anything to black people. So, okay, although I would probably debate the authenticity of that claim, but let's assume it's true for the sake of conversation. You are not guilty of committing any crime against black people, but you are nonetheless guilty of omission, which means you didn't commit a crime, but you did not stop none either. In other words, you may not have participated in police genocide, but you turn a blind eye to it. You may not be miseducating black children, but you will turn a blind eye to it. And furthermore, by virtue of police genocide, by virtue of miseducation, by virtue of mass incarceration, by virtue of gentrification, you receive privileges as a white person that are directly attributable to the disadvantages that are imposed upon blacks. So all white folk benefit from the oppression of black people, directly and indirectly, and they all contribute to the maintenance of the system of white supremacy, directly or indirectly. There's no such thing as a white person who's innocent of racism.
I agree with that to a certain extent. It's the same as saying all men are sinners. And that's just attributed to us living in this fallen world. To say that all white men are racist, is that fair? Well, God judges it that way. God certainly judges it that way. Because the scripture says that they're going to have to do 1,000 years of slavery. That's in the Bible. I don't have time to get too deep into that, but all men are sinners. And if black people were in a state of supremacy, which we have been, the Hebrew men and women were in a state of supremacy during the days of the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel, the original, and they flexed their muscles, they flexed their supremacy, because that's all a result of going back to the Tower of Babel. In the Tower of Babel, all men decided to make a name for themselves and to build a Tower of Babel up to the heavens. Rather that's a metaphor, or that was something spiritually that took place, or portals, or them trying to get into agreement with spiritual beings who were cast out of heaven to build a Tower of Babel. So God scattered the languages. You see that? If he didn't scatter the languages, man would have been on the same page and trying to go against God, trying to become God. So everything stems from a curse. Whether or not that's true that all white people are racist, you will have to go and look at the scripture that says all men have sinned and fallen short the glory of God. The Bible says man drinks iniquity like water. Okay? And that's a result of living in this meat suit. I'll go a step further. The flesh is your enemy. This flesh that you're dragging around on this earth, you're dragging around dead weight. Every day that's a new day, you're closer to death. The flesh is being cooked by the sun. This flesh is dead weight. It's your enemy. It fights against the spirit. So it's not a stretch actually to say that all white people are racist, because if they wanted to make sure that this system was fair and just, they can all collectively get together to do something about it. But it would cause a death to self, meaning a death to the pleasures of fulfilling self. And no race does that. No, not the black race, not the Chinese, not the Indians, not the Hispanics. No one does that, because the flesh is corrupted and we live in a fallen world.
Okay, you got any questions?
I have a question about like now the times that we're in, and with everyone with senses being so heightened, and just racial tensions. I mean, they've always been present, but now they're super heightened, and so many different leaders in our community stepping up and taking charge and doing their part. And I do see something that is very disturbing and even heartbreaking to me, just a lot of division with the black leaders of our community. And I wish I could just go around to everyone and say, hey, shut up, white people can hear you. But, this is not the case. How does that make you feel? I mean, I know you've had situations with other brothers and stuff, and we don't have to get into all of that, but do you feel compelled to just sometimes step back and say, you know what, we need to focus on a real enemy?
Yes, I do. And that's a very good question. And it's a loaded question. I'm going to unpack it a little bit. You mentioned leaders. And I would challenge all of us to be a little bit more specific with the titles that we give people. We have a lot of spokespersons in the black community. I wouldn't say we have a lot of leaders. We have a lot, and on the mainstream level, we have a lot of national black leaders who are not leading us anywhere. They're not leaders, they're spokespersons. They represent a particular reality, but they don't necessarily have a plan. nor do they have anything implemented to advance black people from where they are to where they want to be. I'm not talking about the speeches. I'm not talking about the plans on paper, but I mean, you are actually moving us, or a contingency of us, from point A to point B. We don't have a lot of that. We have spokespersons. And on the mainstream level, Queen, when we deal with the Congressional Black Caucus, when we deal with the National Urban League, when we deal with the NAACP, when we deal with the black clergy, you're dealing with not leaders or really spokespersons. You are dealing with power brokers whose job is to broker deals between the black underclass and the white overclass. So they don't really change or transform anything for the black community. They simply broker deals. In other words, they bring us crumbs in exchange for concessions that are far more valuable than the crumbs that we were given. I'll give you an example. Right now, members of the Congressional Black Caucus, the black celebrity class, black clergy, black businessmen, they're brokering a deal right now for the Democratic Party to get as many black people out as possible to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Umar makes some great points, and whether he admits it or not, that's a big reason why Jamar won't give him his support, because Jamar is a part of the mainstream media. He's a part of the Black Boule. He's been in a Hollywood industry for many years now, and they all have to cling to their support of the liberal left. It's no secret that everyone in the NBA, LeBron James, you go to the music industry, Cardi B, they're all programmed to say bad things about Donald Trump. Now, I've made it known in past videos, I do not support Trump or Biden. These are two people posing, pretending to be on opposite ends of the spectrum, but really they're a part of the same program. They work for the same employer. People are forced to choose between a greater evil and a lesser evil. Either way, okay, they're both evil. All right, they both sworn to the Luciferian Brotherhood. Their role is to deceive the masses, to dumb down the masses, and to giving them some type of hope. That's why the scripture says that put your trust in the Lord and all will be well with you. But people like to build up their idols only to be disappointed by them. And I believe that Jamar knows what Dr. Umar is saying is the truth. That they're all going out to support the liberal left. That's what the Black Boule's role is. They get their fame, their fortune, they get their notoriety. In exchange, they can't, they have to keep quiet about some things. And Jamar knows that. And I believe that's the biggest reason why he won't give his support to Dr. Umar. Not to say that Dr. Umar, there isn't some questionable things, that he hasn't given the answers to. I'm not saying that. I don't support him or I'm not against him. But I'm just speaking from Jamar's side. He'll never say that. All this pro-blackity black rhetoric, they're not sincere. Okay, if they were truly, truly about uplifting the Hebrew race of people, then they'd be willing to give their careers up, and they're not willing to do that. Nothing comes without sacrifice. Sometimes taking a bold statement is worth the sacrifice. But altogether, all of these things are temporary. Nothing's going to change for the so-called black man until Christ comes and light this place up. And that's the truth.
That's what I mean by brokering deals. You haven't asked them to do anything about the schools. You haven't asked them to do anything about the criminal injustice laws. You haven't asked them to do anything about the economic castration and disadvantages of black people. You haven't touched genocide or gentrification or any of that. You're simply getting black people out to vote for no platform or agenda whatsoever in exchange for some crumbs that will come to you by virtue of serving the agenda of the Democratic Party. That's what I mean, black spokespersons or black power brokers, negotiators, posing as leaders.
But most of our people are idolaters, and that's what keep the celebrities relevant, and celebrity always chase relevancy. I also meant to say the Boule has wanted to recruit Dr. Umar for some years. That's how he's been able to get those interviews on The Breakfast Club, and also with Nick Cannon on Cannon's Class, because a lot of times these celebrities are due for blood sacrifice, and bringing a guy like Dr. Umar up in the game would earn them a lot of credit with their handlers and the higher ups. Like, that's how it works in the game. They bring people in. Like 50 Cent was brought in by Dr. Dre and Eminem. Tupac was brought in by Digital Underground and so forth. People in that industry are able to bring someone like Dr. Umar, who is very gifted, very talented, very articulate, and they bring him in, and if he agrees to the terms of the brotherhood, then they get credit for that. They potentially don't have to give a blood sacrifice. They'll keep themselves close to him, and when the time comes for his day, then they'll give them the credit for the blood sacrifice. The problem with that is that Umar, to his credit, he wants everything independent. And he's been preaching about this for a very long time. You go back and look at some of Dr. Umar's old videos from like 2007, 2008. He was talking about Obama, even before Obama got elected. Dr. Umar has always been pro-black independence. This whole Garveyism thing, he's really sold on that and not selling out. I mean, he's wrong about so many other things, but when it comes to that, and I believe that's why him sticking to his guns, that's also why he hasn't got this school yet. And I'm not saying that the brother is right about his cause of going about building the school, and I'm not saying that he has the answers. He's definitely clueless about what he's gotten into. I'm not saying that he is credible with everything. What I am saying, though, is that he would have had that school by now if he'd sold out to the Brotherhood. And I wouldn't put it past them to put a lot of agents on YouTube to sabotage everything that he's trying to build. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jamar is a part of that campaign, allegedly. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Facto.
And for the record, and this is my Marcus Garvey bias, this is my Pan-African nationalist bias, for me, you cannot be a leader if you're not economically and politically independent. If you work for white people, you cannot be a genuine leader for black people. Now, that sounds like common sense because a man cannot serve two masters, right? So you can't work for the European, but claim to be about the business of liberating the African.
But if you write down your top 10, 20 most popular black leaders in America, all but maybe one or two are economically dependent on a European power structure, which is exactly why, Lord Jamal and Sister Rod Digger, most celebrities cannot be leaders of black America. You two can be, because from what I understand, you're somewhat removed from that entertainment empire. But for most of our most successful black entertainers, film, music, acting, it doesn't make a difference. They're too economically tied into the white entertainment superstructure to lead black people anywhere. And many of them are not even good spokespersons because they're too far removed from the ghettos to really understand what's going on in them now, even though they were raised in them. And most of them are too afraid to be castigated by the white power structure to speak honestly about black people. So I cringe when they ask comedians what's going on with black America. I cringe when they go to the NFL and the NBA and go to the gangster rap community and ask them what does black America need. Because whenever they put the microphone in a hip hop artist's mouth, they start cooning as bad as a Charles Barkley or Shaquille O'Neal. I don't care how gangster they are off the film. Put the microphone in their face and they turn into Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal.
And LeBron James never wants to speak out the truth because the last thing he wants to do is go back to humble beginning.
Back to Africa. Garvey never had anything called a Back to Africa movement.
You know, what you said about like not having all black people go back to Africa, you know, it kind of reminds me of, you know, some people have accused you of being hard on black people, saying that, you know, some of us is going to have to get taken out. Some of the savages is going to have to get taken out, maybe 10% and all of that type of stuff. How do you address those? Right, well, let's speak on it. How do you address those people? What do you mean by that?
Well, number one, I don't live in the prison of other people's opinions. Although I do address their opinions, but I don't live in the prison of their opinions. I believe I became who I am, and I believe I've gotten to where I am because most of our people, and when I say our people, I don't just mean domestic North America. I mean the entire planet. My following is global. So I believe most of our people depend on me to tell the truth. Whether they agree with me or not, he's going to tell us what he feels in his heart. Unapologetically African. I live my life on that. I'm the same black man, whether I'm on the Lord Jamal Rod Digger show, the Godcast. I'm the same black man if I'm on the Breakfast Club. I'm the same black man if I'm with that coon Roland Martin. I'm the same black man wherever I'm at. You understand? I don't shift for nobody. I'm the same black man in the courtroom, public school, wherever you take me. I do not change my colors ever, and I never will. With that being said, coming from a psychological perspective, you are out of your mind. Any of us are. If we think you're going to save every African in the United States of America.
Our people are some of the most covetous, jealous, idle-minded folks. And God cursed us by scattering us throughout the nations. It's part of the reason why our people can't get along. You can't build on U.S. soil because the land is cursed. And our people are scattered. A lot of our people have their own idols. If you say something about this one person's idol, then they get mad at you and make a video about it. Or this one person is building their brand, so they have to attack your brand. And that's pretty much what's going on between Jamar and Umar. They're building their own Tower of Babel. Okay, and Umar has had his issues in the past, and he's even set up light-skinned supremacy within the black race. He's attacked black men who are a different shade of color than him. So this is what happens when the flesh becomes the priority. And if this guy, Dr. Umar, was ever to preside over a school, it'd be a mess. I'm just gonna be honest, it'd be a mess. He is very articulate, but he presents his own cult of personality. And it does have a look of Jim Jones, I must be honest.
Far gone? Are we too far divided? Is
I
it
don't think
impossible to save?
sorry about that, Queen.
No, go ahead. What
I
are you gonna say,
don't
brother?
think we're too far gone, but we got to understand something. There's a lot of black people whose livelihood is tied up in us remaining disorganized and self-hating.
I agree.
I mean, look at the reality TV show industry.
Look at hip hop. I
Look
agree.
at gangster rap. Okay, look, most of black community culture today is based on conflict. Gangster rap is totally based on conflict. Reality shows is based on conflict. Social network is based on conflict. Black people don't wake up, a lot of us, looking to find out what's positive going on in the community. We want the drama.
We want
That's
the
why it's
tea.
so easy, as you said, propaganda. That's why it's so easy to spread lies and disinformation about
Right.
people, because we want to hear the negative and we want to believe the negative. Take me. I have 6 degrees, a doctorate in clinical psychology from the oldest osteopathic medical college in America. But with that being said, anybody can pick up a phone and call that college and find out if I graduated from it. It's not a hard one phone call. You get your answer. Did Dr. Umar Johnson graduate from here with a doctorate in clinical psych? But guess what? To this very day, people are saying he ain't got no real doctorate. He a fake doctor, because they want to believe the lie. They're not after the truth, which is why I stopped doing interviews that specifically focused on addressing the hate.
Right.
Because I had to let interviewers understand this is not because they don't know. It's because they love the negativity. The coon community. So you have the coon community within the black community. They never let the truth get in the way of a good story. They never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And so that's why I stopped feeding that, because I realized people don't want the truth. They just want to be entertained with negativity. And let me say this quickly to Sister Rod Digger's question specifically about the conflict within the conscious community. Most of the problems I've had with other brothers, I'm just going to be real: jealousy, envy, and opportunism. When I came onto the scene, October 30th of 2010, it was like lightning. You know, I came in, the school psychologist, the Garveyite, with my oratory, my education. Nobody could. I was that dude. I was like the notorious B.I.G. kicking in the door.
You wanted to say nobody could fuck with me.
Nobody could fuck with me. I'm gonna just keep it all the way 100. Nobody could touch me, and still can't.
Okay.
And that brought jealousy and envy, because they're like, this dude is just, he talking about education, economics. He got the degrees. He got the oratory. He related to Frederick Douglass. Like, so then the hates. Now let me say this though. Let me clarify. The first couple years, it was all love. From 2010 to 2014, 15, it was all love, because I was speaking for free in the beginning. Okay. And by the way, I never charged for a lecture until 2015 for my, I didn't start doing my own lectures till 2015. I didn't start charging others until about 2012, 2013. Okay. And the only reason why I started to charge is because it started taking me away from my school psychology career, and I had to pay the bills. But when I first came out of grad school from 2000 until 2015, 15 years, I never hosted my own event or charged anybody directly, you see. But from about 12 to 15, I started charging folks who bring me out. But from about 10 to 12, I didn't charge anybody anything. It was literally Umar for free, because I was about the work, you see. So with that being said, everything was okay until I started raising money to build the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. When I started raising money and when I started putting on my own events, that's when the hate came, because those who considered themselves power brokers in the conscious movement felt I had to get their permission. I had to go through them to do certain things. You understand? And they were not able to eat off me. I cut the middleman out. I don't need you to set up events for me anymore. I can do my own event. That's when the hate started. And then when I started collecting money for FDMG, the hate started, because other brothers were raising money for their projects, and they wasn't able to raise the money I was raising. So that coupled with cutting out the middleman, that's what brought the hate to me. It was not ideological. You understand? It was all about either the jealousy or the opportunism. None of it was really based on the work.
Dr. Umar doesn't fit in with modern celebrityism because everyone who becomes a major celebrity in the United States have to go through the synagogues. They have to go through the so-called Jews. And Dr. Umar doesn't fit in there because he wants everything to be independent. And the synagogues run everything. They run Hollywood. They run the public education system. To some degree, they run the private education institutions. They run the banks. They run the film industry, the sports industry, politics. They create situations where you have to come to them. They've created wars on a major scale across the world, and they've been doing it for centuries now. So there's absolutely no way that you can get anything major without going through them. Even if it's a dollar store or some small business franchise, but has the potential to grow and make money, and people are seeing it where they're getting influenced. But Dr. Umar wants to build his own Tower of Babel. He wants to build his own in-person audience, his own in-person following, where people worship him on a daily basis. I believe that he has another level to his madness that hasn't been exposed yet. I believe once he gets what he wants, which is the lust of power, there's the lust never satisfies. And he's always talking, get your Big Papa hoodie, get your cash app, get your cash app. Women with your wifey, get your wifey resumes. I'm accepting wifey resumes. This is all cult of personality talk. Okay? And this is a man who has the type of personality to where it grows, but it's never fed. Its belly is never filled. Okay? And he's doing all of this in the name of the ancestors. And again, there's no such thing as the spirit of dead men working through the living. That's demon stuff. Okay? So everything that he's doing on the surface appears to be the right cause, but he's inspired by the wrong spirit. His spirit's not right. He doesn't believe in Christ, and if you don't believe in Christ, then you're your own God. You're just building your own Tower of Babel. And I don't think it's wrong for Jamar to ask him the questions that he was asking him. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Transparency, you're dealing with people's children. You're dealing with their money and their children. Those are two important things, brother. But he when you get to that level, and I believe that he got caught up with the donations coming in, and that starts to swell his head, and then the women at the coming to his speeches and his events. All of those things are ego driven. Okay, it doesn't even have anything to do with Garvey. That's just a lot of times cult leaders like to use dead men to empower their cult, the imagination of their followers. Okay, this guy is caution. You just need to proceed with caution with this type of guy.
Be more transparent, and when they don't see this transparency, it makes them feel, skeptical.
Okay. Let me speak to some of that.
Yes, please.
Okay. Number one, I'm transparent with my donors. I'm transparent with
Now
my
I'm
donors.
being told that there, people say when your actual donors will ask certain
No, sir,
things,
that's a
they
lie.
said
That is
you
not
will
true. That
sometimes
is not
block
true.
them and all this type of
That
stuff.
is not true. Those are
Okay.
not donors. Those are haters. My
Okay.
donors have direct access to me. I talk to them. I know who they are. Most of them are repeat donors. My donors range everywhere from black professionals. I have lawyers. I have engineers. I have business owners, all the way down to the retired great-grandmom who's sending me $10 a month because she want to see this plan come to fruition. Haters don't donate. Donors don't hate. So my accountability is only to those who donate. I want to be very clear about that. It's only to those who donate. So people who ask random questions, they'll never get answers because you don't support this. Now, with that being said, let me also say this. The other question that you ask, which is often asked, is 6 years he don't have to school yet. I'm not to blame for that. The community is to blame for that. I cannot manifest the school out of thin air. Schools cost money.
Yeah, but you fail to realize, as I said earlier, operation costs would be at least $30 million. And you'll need to have annual, semi-annual reports that's showing that you're trending towards hitting your goal to stay in business. It's not just raising the money for renovations, it's keeping the school open as well, I assume.
They're not houses. They're commercial property. But because we're not used to building things exclusively with black dollars, we don't understand how long it takes to get that done. I'm not a charter school. I'm not a public school. My school isn't going to subsist on white handouts and government funding. My school is grassroots Pan-African Academy. So it'll take as long as it takes until we raise the money to achieve the goal. It is that simple. Why the school ain't up yet? Because we're not raising enough money. But guess who don't have to ask those questions? The owner of Quaker Grits, because Negroes give them $11 million a year. Guess who don't have to ask that question? Nike and Air Jordan, because Negroes give them $4 billion, $2 billion a year. $4 billion a year. Weave, perm, and beauty products, $30 billion a year. Fast food, $1 billion a year. They don't have to ask the Europeans and the Jews and the Chinese and the Arabs. They don't have to ask how long it's going to take them to get that Negro money. We give it freely. But when one of our own steps up with the track record, the experience, the credentials, and the resume to do something like build a school to save black boys with the hell that black boys are catching in this country, we don't support him because, number one, we don't want him to get the credit. Number two, we don't want the responsibility of doing for self. And number three, you understand, we want to find an excuse to keep on depending on white folks. So that's really the answer to that. But I want to answer your other piece. You said, what you do with the leftover money? When you open up the interview tonight, I dropped the donation information. I said, get on your Cash App, $ FDMG School. I said, get on your PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. I said, mail in your checks or money orders, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. I also said, if you remember, I said, we are running short on the repair money. We don't have it all. We have most of it, but we don't have it all to cover the repairs of the Garvey building. So to me, it is a very common sense question, something that I don't even think needs to be asked. For somebody to say, what are you doing with the leftover money? We're paying for security so people don't vandalize the property like they've already done. You understand? We have to pay for repairs. We have to pay taxes, upkeep, things of that nature. That's what we're doing with the extra money. The electric system has to be repaired. The plumbing system has to be repaired. We just paid for the roofs to be repaired. The carpentry has to be redone. You understand? We have to do the fire alarm system, the sprinkler system. We have to pay for the building permits. There's a lot of expenses. We have to pay for the grass to be cut. That's not cheap. We have to pay for the grounds to be monitored. There's a lot of cost that goes into maintaining 2 schools, not 1, 2. And for me, I'm happy because we were only looking to get one school, brother and sister. We ended up with two. And to all those coons and trolls who say the buildings are trash, do you realize the 4 buildings we got are state-of-the-art modern schools? They are not old schools like the ones we went to. They are modern. That campus was renovated at a cost of $13 million in 2011, 9 years ago. And the only reason why we have to renovate is because the building was not secured by the previous owner, which allowed people to get in and do what? Strip the electrical system.
I was about to say, steal the copper.
The plumbing system. Strip the HVAC system. Whenever you and Rod Dig are ready, only you two and your other brother, Godfrey, y'all can drive on down and I will give you a tour. And when you walk through them schools, you tell me if those buildings is trash. First of all, the buildings are in excellent shape. Excellent shape. We just got an offer for one of the buildings over more than $1 million. That sound like trash to you?
I don't believe Dr. Umar is scamming people out of their money. I just believe he underestimated the operating cost of the school. I believe he underestimated renovation, and I think he just had a poor campaign from the standpoint of being transparent and letting people know exactly how much money will be needed. But since he's pretty much a one-man operation and he doesn't have experience in operating a campaign and being a money manager, I believe that was to his detriment. But I don't believe he's trying to scam people out of the money. I believe his ego is too inflated when it comes to this whole being a Pan-African and doing everything all black and building this thing from the ground up and owning his own school. I believe that's a part of his whole dream, a part of his whole vision, and that's worth more than money to him. Again, his ambition to be the man, to be the one who has the legacy, to be the one who is deified, is worth more than money, which is not a good thing either, but I don't think he's trying to scam people out of their money. I think he's just taking on more than he can handle.
Okay. For $700,000, I feel like maybe we could have got a piece of land and just built from the ground up, and it could have been turned out cheaper. I don't know. We have to look into a lot of things, and this is a big undertaking that I feel like, you might need some help with it, brother. What do you think?
Well, a couple things. I want to deal with your assumption that I might need some help.
Okay.
Most of my friends are educators. Most of my elders are educators and psychologists. That is my field. So it's kind of interesting when someone who's an expert in something, and I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to the detractors who say I can help him with that. This is
I think they're talking about the real estate part of it. You're an educator, but not a real estate guy.
But we already have the real estate. So that's not even an issue no more.
Right, but did we choose the right real estate? Did we take the money and do the
brother.
best fiduciary thing with the money?
Brother, I just told you that the schools that we got was a $13 million project 9 years ago in excellent shape. We got a steal for that campus. It was a steal. It was the best thing I could have possibly got. I have no regrets. Okay. See, that's when we start feeding into the lies. That's why you got to come see the school, my brother.
Absolutely.
And see it for yourself. Because you have people telling you that the school ain't in good shape. The school is in excellent shape, which is why we're getting offers for it now. It's in excellent shape, brother. The classrooms don't even have to be touched. We just have to fix the electrical system, the HVAC system, and the plumbing system. So I don't need help with the real estate. We were blessed with that campus. You understand? And as far as your brother's school, I support him.
That's my father-in-law. My father-in-law.
I just looked at the website.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to that brother.
Yes, sir.
But what I'm doing ain't that. I want to be absolutely clear. The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy will be America's first school based off the principles of pan-African nationalism and international economics. That's not what I'm doing, brother.
I don't think Jamar understands where Umar is coming from because he can't fathom a black man being totally independent. Because Jamar has never been independent. He's been Hollywood, and they're all subject to their slave masters, okay? Which is the Jews, the so-called Jews. They put the money in their bank account and take it out of their bank account at will. And that's according to whether or not they follow the rituals and keep the oath. But that's a whole nother story. I do believe that Dr. Umar is not a good listener because Jamar told him it was his father-in-law who started the school from the ground up, and he just kept rambling saying your brother. That's a sign. People who are not good listeners are normally going to not be good leaders. Okay? To be a good leader, you have to be a great listener.
School bank account on YouTube?
Well, of course not. Of course not.
On Twitter? You think I'm gonna put the school bank account on Instagram? You out your damn mind.
I think they maybe want more of a timeline of when it might open or something like that.
Catering to the haters. Don't cater
No,
to the haters.
no. It's not catering to the
don't
haters.
look at the
We have
class
to.
we have.
Here's what we got. Here's what we got to do,
catering
though,
to the
brother.
hate, bro.
No. It's not about catering to the hate.
It's
I'm gonna tell you
catering
what
to the
I'm
hate,
doing.
bro.
I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing. Okay. We have to make sure we have to vet all of our people, bro. I got love for you, bro.
Everybody, then vet them other Negroes in the conscious community who ain't building shit. Vet them.
we gonna get
My
to them
track
all,
record
bro.
solid,
Jamar.
Building.
Wait.
Jamar, who
We
else
gonna
is
get
building?
to them
Who
all.
else is building?
Jamar don't discriminate.
Name
Listen.
me somebody built an institution from the grass.
Right.
Name me somebody. You ain't got none of them. Name me a YouTuber doing what I'm doing. Any of them conscious dudes. Name one on my level. Name one builder. You crazy. They
can't.
tie my sneaks, bro.
I can't.
They
All
ain't
I can
building
name
shit.
is my
How many
father-in-law.
kids they say? How many they kept out of jail, bro? They're not building shit.
Right. So
through the grass. What have they built, bro? Who you know in the conscious movement built an institution? Answer that. Nobody. I'm the only one in my generation doing it.
well, you're building it. It's not built yet, though. It's not built.
Be there. Don't you worry about it. You be the first one there. Trust me.
Beautiful. Listen.
We could have talked about what parents can do to keep their kids out of special ed. We could have talked about what they can do to change behavior. We could talk about what they could do to intervene with suicide. There's so many different positive, progressive topics that we could have covered to really help parents, really help educators, really help our children. And we dedicated so much time to the same old played out, worn out ass questions from the haters. That's what bothers me. It's only one of me, bro. You got a lot of people talking about ancient Kemet. You got a lot of people talking about consciousness. You got a lot of people talking about health. But when it comes to the school psych piece, I'm the alpha and the omega.
Okay, I'm going to close this video with some scriptures. Matthew 24, verse 7. It says, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places." So this whole Umar Jamar dilemma, this is a kingdom versus kingdom. These are two separate kingdoms. Okay, Jamar, his history in Hollywood, he represents one who is building his own brand. He's making a transition onto YouTube to create a following, but he's bound by a lot of secrets to the brotherhood within the Hollywood fraternity. Okay, Dr. Umar is attempting to build his own cult. Okay, neither one of these men are followers of the Messiah. They're not God-fearing men. They don't live according to the Holy Scriptures. All right, they're building their own Tower of Babel. All right. And when egos clash, you get a lot of things that are said about the other person to sway the opinion of an audience. Okay. And both of these two men are appearing or appealing to two separate audiences. Okay. People in our race, the so-called black man, the Hebrew people, it's a curse. Okay. There are curses against every race, but our particular group or ethnic group of people, we do not support each other. And that's a part of the curse in Deuteronomy, which I'm going to get to, which explains that we will be scattered. That doesn't only mean physically scattered throughout the nations. That also means from an ideology standpoint, because remember when the Israelites were in the camp and when there was the temple of God and Aaron and his sons were the priests, and they would complain, but they still knew there was one God. They were all on board with just being one God. Of course, yeah, they were disobedient, but once they scattered is when the curse really started to take an effect, and that's where we are today. Even when Christ walked the earth as a man, we were a scattered people. That's why they were questioning, even the Christ, they questioned, who are you? Those were Hebrew men questioning him. Okay? Look at all that Moses did for the children of Israel. He parted the waters, and they were still ready to stone him because they couldn't eat any meat. Like that's just our people. It's a curse against our people. Okay, our people, even if Dr. Umar was legitimate, there would still be a large following of people making videos, getting likes, getting paid off of the man's name. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with getting paid off of another's man and you talking bad about him. I mean, come on.
It seems like your main detractor is this guy Lennon Honor.
Yes. He's a down low brother who preys on teenage boys.
Whoa.
He's married with children, but he's on the down low. He preys on teenage boys, according to information that was released recently. I don't know the man. I never met the man. All he does is make videos about another man, which is me.
Right.
Which was already questionable. That was already questionable. But based on information that another brother released, who I don't know either, okay, he preys on teenage boys.
Wow. I mean, he did have a channel that seemed quite obsessive, seemed like every goddamn video was about you. Like, I was like,
well, we know why now, don't we? We know why now.
Yeah.
We know why now.
Yeah. Well, hey. I don't know, man. I don't know that guy. I just keep seeing his name in the comments, Lennon.
Yeah, he pays it. He's unemployed, 5 kids, a wife. He pays his bill by making Dr. Umar hate videos. That's how he take care of his family. He ain't the only one. It's a whole army of them out there. But compared to the supporters, the detractors are almost irrelevant. Compared to the supporters, the detractors are almost irrelevant. But everybody focuses on the negative. Everybody focuses on the negative, and I think that's the problem with our community because we're always looking at the negative.
Yeah, bro, but you draw a lot of attention to yourself when you start saying you the Alpha and Omega and Big Papi, Dr. Papa, and all these nicknames. You're drawing more attention to yourself than you are to the school. Okay, even with Brother Jamar, calling himself Lord Jamar. Then you have Charlemagne the God, and the God cast. Like, these guys are building the Tower of Babel. They're building themselves as if they're a deity. and worthy of worship. And they have their own ideologies and they have their own following. And if you're against them, then they're going to use their godlike powers to come after you. And that's all this interview was. You know, Jamar had an agenda from the beginning. I do believe he potentially may want to recruit Dr. Umar to become a part of the Black Boule, but he knows that Dr. Umar will never do that. His ego is too big. His ego is way too far gone, you know. Now, I do believe Lennon Honor went overboard the number of videos and the hours that he spent making those videos about Dr. Umar. Like, that just went way too far. Like, I know how much time he spent on those videos editing. You know, I spend a lot of time editing my own videos. But to do that's just obsessive, and that isn't man-like, you know, and he does have a lot of feminine qualities. But just pray for the brother. You know, I don't want to get off into the gossip about all of that, but Dr. Umar did make those accusations. Nevertheless, I want to end this segment reading from the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 63 through 67. It explains why the so-called black man is cursed, and that God is foreseeing the future that will fall upon the so-called black man for his disobedience to the Most High. It says, verse 63, chapter 67, "And it shall be that just as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and bring you to nothing, and you shall be plucked from off the land which you go to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you will serve other gods, celebrities, which neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. And among those nations you shall find no rest, nor shall the sole of your foot have a resting place. But there the Lord will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and anguish of soul." That's why our people are getting killed. That stems all the way over 4,000 years ago. The curse of Deuteronomy. "Your life shall hang in doubt with the police brutality before you. You shall fear day and night and have no assurance of life." That's why you can't build on this land. You're on enemy's territory. That there's already a curse against the land and against the people that's on the land. "In the morning you shall say, oh, that it were evening, and at evening you shall say, oh, that it were morning, because of the fear which terrifies your heart, and because of the sight which your eyes see. And the Lord will take you back to Egypt in ships, by the way of which I said to you, you shall never see it again, and there you shall be offered for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves." That's Hollywood. Okay. But no one will buy you. Basically, you can't become independent in Hollywood because you're a slave. And that's what Dr. Umar is trying to escape. But he doesn't know that the synagogue, well, he probably does know, but his ego is just way in the way. The synagogues own everything. And once you get into that world, you're a slave to fame. Okay? And if he wants to own the school, he's going to have to sell out. He's going to have to sell his soul. He's going to have to commit all the way and take the oath, do the rituals. Okay, and they're sitting back right now monitoring him. and they're mocking him and laughing at him because it is a struggle. And a lot of the people that they've planted against him, they're agents on YouTube, and probably agents that are grassroots as well. Okay. But that's the curse of Deuteronomy against our people. There's not going to be anything built here in the U.S. or anywhere in this fallen world until Christ comes back and redeem us. Okay. And I will get into that in another video, but I'm going to end this segment. You guys subscribe, rate the video, share it, and also let me know what you think in the comments about what you've heard today. That's all I have. God bless you and enjoy the rest of your day.